Hello, everybody, and welcome to Homemade. I'm so happy that you're here today. I'm Chef Bonnie. I'm going to be your guide today through the magical, marvelous world of Dubai chocolate cake. Aw, yeah. So that's what we're going to knock out today. Mighty Sesame is going to bring it home for us, and we're going to talk about this as I go along, but I cannot wait for you to try this at home and work with me today while we do this and just live the Dubai chocolate cake dream. I'm ready for that. How about you, Amy?
I am so excited for this one.
I'm so excited for this one. Amy is our chef in the chat. If you have any questions while you're here today, just throw them to Amy in the chat. She will send them to me, and we'll go back and forth. This is some pretty good magic that we're going to knock out today. I want to talk a little bit about the very first thing I'm going to do because we're going to do it live and in person, and then we're going to move on to some other stuff. So let's just take a minute to talk about what makes a Dubai chocolate cake, or in this case, a Dubai chocolate bar, which is really the inspiration of this guy. So maybe about 5-6 years ago, the Dubai chocolate bar popped on the scene, and it became the hottest, coolest, most amazing thing, right? So you have like this lush layer of basically like phyllo dough that had been like sauteed in some butter and then mixed in with like unbelievable lush pistachio paste. And then you take that whole thing and you like enrobe it in some perfectly tempered chocolate magic. And then you put some gold leaf in there just to zhuzh it up a little and make it full on Dubai action. And that is a Dubai chocolate bar. So today we're going to replicate that in a cake because a chocolate bar is nice, but a cake is nicer. So that's what we're going to do. Okay, so that means I'm going to have these ingredients ready to go. The first thing I got here in the pan is I have my kataifi, which is this beautiful phyllo dough. So it's quite lovely, and this one's all toasted up and ready to go. It takes, depending on your phyllo, it's going to take 10 to 30 minutes to get it toasted. So give yourself a little bit of time. Like if it's frozen, takes a little bit longer. This one that we found this week actually had some toast on it already, so it didn't take me nearly as long to toast it up. I put a couple tablespoons of butter in here, I think 3 tablespoons of butter, and then I got it really pretty and brown. Don't go too far because if it gets too dark, it'll start to turn bitter. But you do want it to be essentially dried out, and so this is the color that I went for today. I would say that's probably the peak of your color right there. And then what you see here, this is my pistachio paste. So the pistachio paste, you can buy pistachio paste, but I actually think it's much better to just make it yourself. Don't tell the Sicilians because they love their pistachio paste. But pistachio paste is essentially here today. It's just ground up pistachios, a couple tablespoons of powdered sugar just to keep it flowing around. There's a little bit of Mighty Sesame tahini in there because we wanted to get the flavor to like really mix and mingle all the way through. And then I'm about to add some more to the base. So that's the whole thing. Really simple, elegant, beautiful. Definitely toast your pistachios before you do them, because if they're raw, they don't turn into quite that delicious butter that you're going for. You want to have, think about like a toasted peanut butter, right? If you grind up regular peanuts, they're fine, but they don't have nearly as much dimension as if you toast them up. So you're going to do the same thing with this. So now this is going to just go right in. And I need my, my phyllo to be nice and warm, but not hot, smoking, anything like that, because that'll help melt those nut oils in both the pistachio here and also in the tahini, right? Because the Mighty Sesame tahini is literally just sesame seeds, which is so amazing. They have 3 different ones, and I love to use them for all kinds of applications. They have their classic organic one that is shelled seeds, and then they have a whole seed one that I love. That's what I'm actually going to use now. And then they have this harissa one, which is super fun for like, I don't know. We were talking earlier about how you can use it instead of mayonnaise, like in your anything you put mayonnaise in, like a, I don't know, tuna salad or what have you. It's great like in chocolate chip cookies for a little extra bite. There's all kinds of magic for that. But today I'm going to use this one, which is the whole seed. I like it because it just has a little bit more dimension than the regular one. But if you just have the regular one, go for it. But here's the magic you need to get. Do you see that? I just squeezed out my tablespoons. All good. Done and done. And now I'm going to get this incredible infusion of sesame into the filling for the cake. And it's easy, and it's clean and neat, and this is shelf stable, so I don't even have to refrigerate. I love this stuff. We have some other classes with them on our website, so definitely go check out some of the other Mighty Sesame classes that we did, because they're just so much fun to work with, and the flavors are just magic. And I love it. Shelf stable, you know, nothing added, just a clean, beautiful tahini.
Chef, we have a question about back to the pistachio.
Yeah.
So would you need to remove the outer skins from the pistachio before you grind them?
So are we talking about our peeps out there who are shelling all their own pistachios? Is that what we're talking about?
I'm imagining, yes.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you want to try and get them as clean as possible. It's not the end of the world, so don't sweat it too much. You're going to get a little bit brighter green color if you make sure that those little inside skins, the parts that are inside the shell, are gone. But if you don't, it's not the end of the world, so don't worry about that. The thing about this one is it's all going inside the cake, so it'll be a really fun surprise. It's a really fun surprise in your mouth. Like, you'll see a nice, pretty pistachio color inside. So we're trying to keep that a little bit on the brighter side, but these are toasted pistachios, so they are going to have a little bit of color. And I did use a whole seed tahini instead of like a shelled tahini, sesame seed. And so it's going to be just not quite as bright green, but that's okay, because I'm going for flavor as much as anything else.
And
so
then
don't sweat it.
Back to that, could you just repeat again what was in the pistachio cream? And then also, do you grind it in a food processor?
Yeah. So you're going to toast your pistachios. You're going to pop them into your food processor. Just start pulsing them to get them to start breaking down. Then you can add a couple tablespoons, like 1 or 2 tablespoons of confectioner's sugar. I would say use about a cup-ish of pistachios. A tablespoon or 2 of confectioner's sugar just to taste. You can put a pinch of salt in there, and then just grind it until imagine peanut butter. You're going for creamy butter, right? So the butter can be made out of whatever nuts you want. So we all know peanut butter from way back, but you can do it with pistachios, cashews, almonds, like any nut can get turned into a butter.
And then you said you also added a little bit of Mighty Sesame in there as well.
Yeah, like a tablespoon, just to make sure that flavor was really in there. And by the way, make extra. You can spread it on toast. It's really nice in the morning. Like, make a piece of toast and then spread it on, and it starts to like melt in there. And then the other thing that we added that I forgot to mention is a little bit of honey, because the honey is so reminiscent of this region, and also it just goes great with the pistachios, and it goes so great with the tahini. So there's a little bit of that in there too. So just have a gander at your taste buds, right? So get it in your mouth, see what it tastes like, add what you want to add, and you're good. No hard and fast rule on this. So that's it. This is going to go and cool now. But do make sure that you add the Mighty Sesame tahini and the pistachio butter when it's warm, so that you can really mix and mingle it, because you want all those flavors to come together. Okay, so that's the filling for the cake. Now let's get the cake knocking out, right? I am going to show you the ingredients that I have. This one's a little funny because it's not assembled the way we know a lot of cakes are assembled, where you're sort of like creaming together fat and sugar, and then you're adding dry. So this one's a little bit different because we're actually going to put the sugar in with the dry ingredients, which is not as typical as you might expect. So I'm going to show you the ingredients that we got. So this is a whole flour, just plain old all-purpose flour. This is cocoa powder, so they're very similar, the amounts. Then I have granulated sugar. Then I have dark brown granulated sugar. And then these are my 2 leaveners. I'm going to use baking powder, baking soda, and salt. And so all of these ingredients are actually going to get mixed in together into my bowl. You could do this whole thing by hand, too. I'm going to use a stand mixer because it's fast and easy, but you absolutely could just do this on its own. And you don't have to measure them in individual containers like I did for my little cooking show, right? You can just pop it right all in there. It's all fine, because you're going to mix it all together. But what you get out of this, is you get to mix your sugars in with everything else, and that really helps with the hydration. The cocoa powder, they're all a little different in the amount of moisture that they have in them, so it's really helpful if you mix them well. And then add your liquid ingredients. So that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to come on over here, get this on my stand mixer, And again, do it by hand if you want. It's totally fine. I do recommend using a whisk, though, so you can get everything on there.
Chef, are you using Dutch cocoa powder or natural?
Great question. Yes. So you can use either. It's okay. I think that the Dutch process sometimes has a little bit deeper flavor, and it definitely has a little bit darker color. So if you want your cake to be extra dark, go ahead and use the Dutch process. If you only have the other, that's okay too. And also, some people really prefer the bitterness of an undutched cocoa. So Dutching is where you expose the cocoa to an alkali, and what it does is it helps to reduce that bitterness of the chocolate. But a lot of people really like that bitterness. So it's really okay whichever one you go. It's not going to have a drastic effect on the cake. Some cakes where it makes a difference are cakes where you're going to be adding an acid to it, like buttermilk is a big one that gets used a lot, or maybe there's some other kind of acid in there. If you don't mix those with the right kind of cocoa, you might not end up with the result that you're looking for. Okay, so I have in here 2 eggs. I added some milk and some vanilla. I'm going to add in some canola oil. You could use olive oil for this if you want, which is a lovely way to go. Whatever, avocado, just some kind of oil is fine. And just get these fairly well combined. And then I have a little shot of espresso here. I'm just going to warm it up. The espresso should be very warm when you add it. So I'm just going to pop it in here. It's 2 ounces. And I'm going to do that. So that should just take a couple seconds. You want it to be warm because it's how we're going to bloom the cocoa. So cocoa powder has all kinds of beautiful starches and fats that are in there, and they don't really hydrate until you expose them to heat. So when you add hot espresso to it, it's going to open it up and allow those flavors to mix and mingle a little bit more. If you don't do it, or you forgot, or you can't heat up your coffee or something, don't worry about it. It's not the end of the world. But I will say that it really helps. It just adds this extra little layer, because you're really just layering flavors, right? I mean, look at this. We got the sweet and the bitter and the lush. It's all happening. So I'm going to start this, and I'm just going to add in my liquids. The nice thing about this, too, is this cake is really fast. Once you get all your mise en place done, you're just knocking it out. Okay, I'm going to take it off the mixer, and I'll just finish it by hand so you can see it. Ooh. We got that here. Should I do this? Okay. So I'm just going to finish mixing. And you could be doing this yourself the whole time. It does get a little bit thick, and that's fine. You're not going to overdo it because you're going to be relatively gentle. My motor versus the machine's motor is particularly chill. All right, I'm just going to add in my espresso just to bloom that cocoa powder. Yeah, baby. Oh, I wish you could smell this. Chocolate, cocoa powder, vanilla, it's all coming together in a magical way. I do love how with the stand mixer, you can let the stand mixer do it, or you can just use the same tool to finish it off, which is pretty great. All right, looks good.
You're just leaving it there for me to run up and grab.
I know. I walked away for a second. Watch out for Amy. Okay, so I do have my pans prepared. Whenever I bake, and I've been baking for a long time, I get all my ingredients out first. I measure everything. I'm like a cooking show at my house because I don't want to get halfway through a recipe and realize, oh my gosh, I forgot to make the espresso, or the butter's ice cold, this isn't going to work, right? So give yourself a break. Take the time to mise en place your ingredients, measure them out, right? You don't have to do all these individual little bowls like I do here. I just want you to be able to see what I'm doing, but keep that in mind. Also, if your pans are the same, you could certainly weigh your batter. in each pan so they're totally even. You can also just eyeball it, so don't feel pressure about that. You will notice that they have been sprayed with a little bit of fat. So I did use olive oil in this case, and then I just put some parchment paper on the bottom. This doesn't have to be dusted with flour. If you're ever making a chocolate cake that does have to be dusted with flour, dust it with cocoa powder instead so you don't get that white sheen on the outside. But this one doesn't need it. So I'm just going to kind of eyeball it. Oh, it's perfect. Beautiful batter. Absolutely gorgeous. This is where you get your spatula in there, right? You don't want anything left behind. And maybe you have like a little someone like running around the house wondering if they're going to get a little bit of spatula action. I will say, you know, we're all pretty wary sometimes about raw eggs, but I also think we have all had cookie dough or cake batter or whatever when we were kids, and here we all are. So take it with a grain of salt. All right, and you just eyeball them if you want.
I love with that glass bowl we can see that you got every drop out of there.
I am committed. I know, it's so fun. These glass bowls are great. And they're sturdier than you think. I mean, I remember the first time I saw one, I was like, a glass bowl in a stand mixer? How's that going to work? But let's just say there's some fine engineers out there who know exactly what they're doing when it comes to developing equipment.
So these are 2 8-inch rounds. Are there other shapes or sizes that we could do this cake in?
Yeah. I would say be really careful about using a different size pan than what's indicated because it takes into consideration all the grow space, right? So this is going to lift up with the leavener and the heat in the oven. And so if I start messing around with cake size, I might get a really thin cake. Because remember, the cake is going to be heated from the sides and from the top and from underneath. So if you spread it out really thinly, you're going to have a different story. There are some really good resources online about how much batter to put in different size cake pans. It's really easy to find. You can just search for it with a search engine. But I do recommend doing a little due diligence because you might not get the result that you're going for. You might get a cake that's really, really flat, or that cooks too quickly on the outside and the inside doesn't get a chance to cook. So I would definitely be careful about just ad-libbing there. That's my response. Okay, into the oven we go. Oh, you know what? One other quick thing I actually want to show you before I do that. I forgot. One other thing. So with a chocolate cake like this, there is a little trick you can do to help keep it from doming. So if you take your cake and you just spin it just a little in one direction, and I'm spinning it fairly aggressively, so it just barely goes up the sides, just a tiny bit, and that tiny little bit of up the side action will kind of help keep it from doming. That amount of liquid in a cake, it's going to want to dome anyway, but that little trick can sometimes help save the side of your cake. All right, let's check that in 20 minutes, okay? It'll take about 25 to 35 minutes, depending on your oven, depending on where it is. We'll see how it goes with this oven, and then we'll be good. All right, so that is the cake. Isn't that fun? Let's make some frosting to go on the cake.
Chef, while you're getting ready for your frosting, I know we talked a little earlier, but somebody's just wondering about some other ways that you could use tahini that they haven't thought of yet.
Okay, did we talk about tahini chocolate chip cookies, which might be my favorite?
I think we maybe mentioned it briefly, but I feel like you should go into it.
I don't know how to go into it exactly, but I mean, you can replace, because the tahini is essentially just a ground up seed, it has a fair amount of fat in it, so there's a whole bunch of places where you might use butter or oil or something like that where you can sub in the tahini and get that much more complex flavor. So I don't have an exact ratio where you would exchange it, but I will say it's a really nice way to add some dimension and interest to a lot of different things. But I do think tahini chocolate chip cookies with a little bit of really beautiful flake salt on top, I think that's in my top 10 favorite desserts. So that one I would totally try. Anywhere you're going to use peanut butter, obviously tahini is a great sub because it's a butter, right? You're grinding up a seed or a nut. Oh, the other one we were talking about earlier is spicy tahini popcorn. So if you take that harissa and you pop some corn and then you toss it in there, it's like every bite is like lush with a little heat and the crunch and the salt just over the top. Over the top.
I was saying that popcorn sounded good to me. There was also a couple suggestions in chat. Addition to salad dressing.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And we had a recipe earlier, so somebody threw that in there. Strawberries and ice cream with tahini.
Ooh.
So we got a couple of ideas.
I think some people will drizzle it over their morning granola, to get a little bit of extra protein in there. I think that's a nice little addition.
That sounds great too.
I do really like it as the peanut butter sub too because I have a younger kid, and sometimes she goes places where she can't have any nuts, but the tahini's fine. So, a little tahini and jam sandwich is kind of a lovely addition. Okay, so I want to show you, before we arrived together, I pre-whipped the butter. And the reason I did that is because it takes about a good 3 to 5 minutes to get the butter to this really frothy texture. Can you see it? It looks like frosting already. So spend the time to do that so you get a nice light, lofty frosting. That's going to go on my machine. And then the other ingredients I have are powdered sugar, cocoa powder, and salt. That's what's in there. And then I have milk. So I have a measured amount of milk. That's about 3/4 cup. And then I have some backup milk in case we need it. The dairy is going to be a variable. So you might end up not needing all of it, or you might need more. So just check the texture of your frosting as you go. This is a super simple frosting. Also, super critical, right, that you have the butter beaten ahead of time. Not ahead of time like I did today, but make sure you spend the time whipping this because that's really your base, and that way it'll mix together really well. And don't worry too much about a bunch of lumps in here. I mean, obviously I ran a whisk through it, but it's going to meld in really nicely in here, so don't panic about that. Actually, don't panic about anything. It's only cake. All right. Okay, so I'm just going to add in some of my mixture while it's going. It's another reason to have the nice deep bowl too, right? And you're not going to overdo this. There's no flour in here, so you're not developing gluten or anything, so don't worry about that. You just want to get it light and beautiful. When it starts to look really dry, then you can add in some of your dairy. And the machine will catch up. I have it running on low right now. There's no reason to speed it up beyond that. It won't take long. I think this might be the thing that takes longer than anything else we do today.
That's true. Everything's been pretty speedy.
Yeah.
Besides
the
assembling.
cake was so fast. Yeah, assembling will be a thing that we're going to knock out in a beautiful way. Okay, now it's starting to look magical.
Chef, going back to talking about keeping our cakes from doming too much.
Yeah.
Someone asks if you recommend there's some
cake strips?
Yeah, cake strips.
Cake strips are great. They're a little bit fussy, but they work. They're perfect. That's just straight up physics. They work great. You basically have a strip of this special fabric that won't burn in the oven. And you soak it in water and you put it around the edge, and so it takes longer for the edge to get warm because it has to heat through the fabric that's around the outside. Don't make this yourself. You got to buy them, or else you'll be sad. But they work great. I think sometimes they even call them magic cake strips, and they are just magical. So if you have a really wet cake, like the one that always comes to mind is devil's food cake, is a really liquidy batter. So that one's really great for cake strips. So your cake will be flat. But I do think the spinning thing works just fine, so you decide. All right. So this is looking pretty good. I'm going to check the texture with my hands instead of using the mixer, just because it's nice to know that it's the texture that I want it to be.
That was a big reveal because the sides of the bowl are still a little light.
Yeah, it's like what's happening
Whoa.
there? Yeah, here, let me bring it over here so John can see it. Can you see that? Yeah, it's definitely turning into frosting. So the nice thing about the attachments for your mixer is they work with the mixer and with you. So you can get in there and move some things around. You can dig down a little bit, so it's one less utensil perhaps that you need to deal with later. I mean, this is actually a pretty good texture. I'm going to add a little bit more liquid so it's not dry, but I didn't even use the full measure of milk, just so you know what I'm talking about. Now, we're here in Seattle today where it has been raining for like 9 days straight, so there's a lot of moisture in the air, so I might not need all the moisture. So wherever you are, think about, has it been dry recently, right? If you're making this in New Mexico, it might be a whole different story than if you're making it in Washington State, right? But it is a little bit stiff, and I know that I have to actually mix it, so I want to make sure that it's not so, or not mix it, but put it on a cake. So I want to make sure that it's not so stiff that I can't actually spread it nicely on the cake. So I'm just going to whip it up a little bit, just to make sure everything's well combined. Woo! Woo-hoo! And then I'm going to add some liquid. Yeah, this one's funny. Have you, you know how it's supposed to be righty-tighty, lefty-loosey? These bowls, for some reason, go the other way. I don't know why. It's a kitchen mystery. All right, let's try that again. And by the way, if you find that you added too much liquid, you can add some more powdered sugar, which we might have to do here.
They are very impressed with you using the attachment as a stirrer.
Yeah, like, it's so great. Oh my gosh, yeah. See how it keeps trying to come off? I think I am going to have to add a little more powdered sugar to this guy. Let me get some air in it and see what happens. Because air will stiffen it up a little bit too. And again, you're not going to be over mixing this because there's nothing in it but sugar and cocoa. All right, let's take a gander. Oh, you're so sweet. Are you flying in? You can just put some in here. Thank you. I just got a special powdered sugar delivery. I bet you didn't notice that your chat moderator just disappeared to bring me. All right, let's take a look. Oh, I bet I won't be able to get it off the bowl now because I really tightened it on there. Yeah, so that looks pretty good. It's a little bit on the wet side, so I'm going to add a little bit of powdered sugar. Not a ton. Yeah. So I would like it to be a tiny bit stiffer than that, so we'll add a bit more in. I think I might not be able to get this off the bowl, which will be hilarious, off the mixer. Now that I locked it on there.
Now you've got it on there. It's never coming off.
I know. I'm like, you shall not pass. Boom. Yeah, it is amazing how much your local humidity makes a difference when you're baking stuff. I actually think I'm going to add a little more. I'm a little surprised. And you know, I just made this a couple days ago when we had like the one dry day, and I didn't have to add any more sugar. So you just never know what you're going to get. It's like a box of chocolates. Okay. I will be able to get it off. Everything's okay. Okay. Yeah, good. Phew. Yeah, it's still a tiny bit on the moist side. I think I went a little crazy with the dairy. All right. All right, let's just triple check here. Make sure everything's off the sides. And yeah, getting back to using the tool as your utensil, I mean, it perfectly fits the bowl. So it's a pretty great way to do it. Oh my gosh. I wish you guys could feel this texture. It is so, like, look at that. Isn't that so pretty?
Beautiful.
Lush. And the other thing about that Dubai chocolate bar is it is milk chocolate. So you do want to have that slightly lighter looking mix there. All right, let's try this one more time till we get there. And if I decide to go crazy in the other direction, I do have some more milk standing by. So for those of you, you know, taking bets at home on how far Bonnie's going to go on this one. There we go. It takes a minute for this stuff to hydrate itself, too. Oh, it's going to be sweet, sweet, sweet. All right, while that's going, let me just pull over my magic of television cake so we can get into this, get my other stuff set up so you can see everything we're doing. Because we are going to actually assemble this cake together, right? Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Cake time. One more thing we are not doing today is resting this cake. So when you do this at home, I really recommend that after you make the cake and assemble it, you let the whole thing set up in the fridge and just let those flavors mix and mingle. This is a great cake on day one, which is what we're going to do today. It's an even better cake on day two. So this is a great cake to make ahead of time and then serve the next day if you can. If you're like, I don't have time for that, Bonnie, that's totally okay. All right, there we go. Beautiful. Okay, so now we got some action. Oh, all right. This is just like something you're going to want to eat with a spoon. But save some for your cake, is what I'm trying to say. Also, remember, there's a bunch of butter in here, so when you chill it, that's just going to firm the whole thing up. And then take it out about a half an hour before you're ready to use it. But that's a nice frosting texture, okay? And then you can just get this cleaned up. Use your spatula, of course, if you want. Your nice clean hands are excellent tools in the kitchen, too.
I feel like you could also do some tahini frosting in some capacity there, too, when we were talking about
100%.
Applications.
Yeah, you could put a little tablespoon of the tahini in here for sure. I actually used to make a spiced chocolate cake, and I think it would be really good with the harissa tahini in it. That'd be quite amazing. Okay, so now I have everything that I need to actually put the cake together. Let's just talk for a minute about this. So I have a cake here. This one, I just want to show you. I leveled it off. So if you look at the side like that, I actually leveled it off because these cakes had a little bit of a dome on them. And then what I did was I ground up the crumbs, or I ground up the cake that I leveled off, and I made it into cake crumbs, and I'm going to coat the cake with that. So we'll do that in just a minute. Also, if you do level it off, make this the bottom of the cake. So I'm just going to take my spatula, and I'm just going to get a little smear on here, just to make sure it doesn't move around. And I'm going to take this side, and I'm going to flip it over and lay it on top. And that way it's not going to slide around on my cake board. This cake board's a little bit bigger than the cake, so I'm trying to center it a little bit, but mostly that's going to be covered in chocolate, so that's okay. And if you have a little pastry brush that you can brush off crumbs, that's always a nice way to go too. You do not have to have a turntable, but they sure are nice. I remember doing these on like big cans, you know, getting like 3 big tomato cans and putting them next to each other and then just setting the board on top of those and just kind of spinning the board around. It's just nice to have it elevated a little bit so you can see all the sides and move around. Okay, so let me just show you real quickly how you might level that cake. So if you get a cake that has a little dome on it like this one does, oh, let me move that for you, John. And then you take a serrated knife. And this is the same way that you're going to make layers if you want to make layers. So if you look at this cake, you see how it's got that little dome? So I'm just going to slice that off. So I'm going to take my serrated knife, I'm going to draw it towards me, and then I'm just going to turn. And you can crumble this up into little cake pops or something, whatever you want to do. But it is nice to turn into cake crumbs because you can also take those and freeze them. Your cake crumbs last forever, right? So that's a great leveled off cake. And that just makes my life a little bit easier. So this is now a really crummy layer. Not like, that's just crummy, but covered in crumbs. So I'm not going to want to have that on the top of my cake. I'm going to want to have that on the inside of my cake. So when I go to do that next layer, that's what I'll do with it. All right. So many crumbs. So little time. Okay. All right, so here we go. Get your cake, fairly centered on there. And then I do really strongly recommend offset spatulas because they're just a much easier way to distribute ingredients. And an offset spatula is a funny one. You actually do it this backwards. It's actually like that, so that you can push away like that. So get a bunch of your icing on there. And you need a fair amount, right? Don't be skimpy. Because I'm not doing like a 4-layer cake or a 6-layer cake. This is a 2-layer cake. So one of the layers, in between the layers, I want a nice thick amount of icing. Or frosting, depending on who you are, where you came from, and what you call things, sweet stuff that you put on cakes. What does everybody say out there? Are you frosting people, icing people? Do you make a distinction?
I'm curious what people will say, but I think they're different things.
Yeah, I think of icing more as like what you put on cinnamon rolls.
I think of icing as being more liquidy.
I do too.
Yeah.
But I've heard them used so interchangeably over the years that I'm like, okay, fine. Now, because my frosting is fairly moist, this cake would do really well to get chilled overnight. It's not gonna. We're gonna eat it here today, but yeah. All right, so I'm going to make like a little, almost like a indentation and like not do the sides with the beautiful filling. But here we go. All right, and the other thing too is you want this filling obviously to be nice and cool, and you want it to, so good. I wish you could smell this. I can't wait till y'all make this so you can smell this. But the other thing that's really magic about this is it's actually going to be textured too. A lot of time you have a cake and there's no texture in the cake. It's just all a little bit one note. You've got this beautiful cake and then you have this nice frosting and you're great. But this one is going to have not only this incredible filling, but all this beautiful texture too, which is just magic. All right, and I don't worry about any of the frosting going over the sides because I'm going to do the side of the cake too, right? But I'm trying not to have this bleed out into the sides for when I frost the whole thing. All right. Kataifi and the paste are also really good on toast, so don't be afraid of that. All right, so now I'm getting my second layer, and remember, I'm going to take the cut side down because I want to have the cleaner side that was up against the pan right there. Just boom, on top. So now the last layer of frosting is going on top.
Chef, we have 20 minutes passed on our cake.
Oh, cool. Okay, let me go give those a quick look. No matter how great your oven, it is really nice to turn your cakes. So I really recommend giving your cakes a little twist. Yeah. Oh, these are pretty close, actually. Yeah, I'm going to say probably five or 6 more minutes on those.
Heard.
Thank you. All right, so now, oops. It's moving around. This is when you would be chilling your cake, by the way. So my cake is not getting chilled. So we're just going to magic it up in real time here. But when you do this at home, I definitely recommend a little chill in between so that everything can stiffen up. Because I think my My filling was a little bit warm, and so it's kind of oozing out of the sides, which is a look. It's a look.
It's like a little skirt.
It has a little skirt. Yeah, more than a little skirt. Hey, what's up? It wants to get out. It's like, please, let me out. I just really, really wanted to show you the filling, so I did. But I'm going to pull some of this out because I don't want it to mess up the side of our cake too much. The nice thing is, whatever happens with your cake, it'll be fine. You want to just get yourself a nice layer.
So, Chef, do you
top.
think it's from the frosting being a little bit softer or from the filling being a little warm still?
I think it's both. I think the filling was a little bit warm, which is the primary, but I also think that the frosting is a little bit on the soft side too. It's like a perfect storm, perfect cake storm.
I always feel like it's nice to see when stuff like that happens so we can figure out what we do at home with it.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, because this happens to everybody. All right, I'm just going to slide it all around. And the nice thing about this too is, now we get to talk a little bit about the crumb coat. And by crumb coat, I don't mean the coating that I'm going to put on it of crumbs. I mean we're actually going to have it so that the sides of the cake, any little errant crumbs get soaked up by icing or frosting. All right, so you can intentionally just push down on the sides with your icing and have it all fall from the top. That's kind of my preference. You can also, anytime you want, pick up your whole cake, which I'll show you how to do in a second. But first, let's just get some of this on here. And the crumb coat is a really great way to deal with any issues that you might be having, like, oh, my cake's uneven, oh, it's super crumbly, I decided to make so many layers, and now I just have crumbs all in my icing. And that's what crumb coats are for. They're going to catch all of the stuff that isn't working, and they're going to preserve it.
There was a question, I don't know if it applies for this particular frosting, but do you ever pipe a dam around the edge to avoid overflow?
Oh, yeah, for sure. You can always do that. Yeah, but because this frosting is a little on the soft side, it would not have piped. So that wouldn't have worked in this case. But let's just take a quick, there we go. So what I'm doing right now is I'm just scooping up all the extra. And this cake is plenty rich, so it's not like we need a ton of it on there. And then you decide what you want the top to look like. You can kind of clean it off this way, take the edges, pull them towards you as you turn.
Oh, we have a good question here about baking the cake. So Vicki says, I'm always reluctant to open the oven while a cake is cooking, thinking that it will fall if I do. At which point can you open the oven to turn the cake?
That's a great question. I usually look at the total baking time. I cut it in half, and then I go in the last quarter of the baking time, if that makes sense. So I usually let it go past the half point, because sometimes, especially with a really wet cake like this one, it's going to be a little trickier to avoid that, if that makes sense. So let's say a cake time says 30 minutes. So I wouldn't go at 15, but I would go at 20.
So definitely no sooner than halfway.
No.
And then maybe more towards 3/4 of the way.
Yeah, lean a little more towards 3/4. Well summarized.
I gotcha.
Thank you. Okay, so this is where you would chill it, because once you've captured all those crumbs on the sides, like it's not perfect right now. You can see through, and the see-through cake layers are a thing too, where you get to see the sides, and that way you don't use too much icing and all of that. That's totally fine. But sometimes you do want to have like a big thick layer of icing or frosting all around the whole thing. So if that's the case, you want to take it at this point, you want to throw it into your fridge. And how you transfer a cake off of a board like this is you're just going to take your offset spatula and slide underneath, and then just gently lift it up and then get your hands underneath, right? So that's how you're going to do it. And then this is another great way to, when you do the big, thick frosting layer, you come from underneath and you do like a little swoop on each side. I'm not going to do that today, just because my cake is still not, it just needs to be a lot colder than it is right now, so I'm not going to do that. But I am going to show you how to do.
Before you do the next step, Chef, your 5 minutes is up.
My
on
5
your
minutes is up. But I have a cake in my hand. Please hold.
I just wanted you to know.
I mean, we don't want burnt cake, because that would be super sad. All right. But I know how you feel about having a cake that's like, you don't want it to fall, right? Okay. This looks great.
And what are you checking for?
So I'm looking for the bounce. So when I look at this, I'm pressing down to see if I'm getting some nice bounce back. And I am. You can also stick like a cake skewer in there. Be careful of sticking a whole knife in there, but like a little cake skewer is kind of nice. I find this version is really a great way to go because I'm not interfering with the cake too much as far as like exposing the inside and letting all that steam come out if it's not done. But these look great. So I'm going to set these on the counter. I would let those chill in the pan for about maybe 20 minutes or so, 20 to 30 minutes, and then take them out, let them cool all the way to room temperature before you use them. Okay, let's get back to this guy. Let me show you how to do the side of the cake. So I put my crumbs in a bowl that's fairly good size. And now I'm going to just gently press them up against the cake over another bowl. This is one of my favorite cake fixes because I always have some crumbs in my freezer. And if I don't love the way my cake is looking, or I'm in a hurry, like today I want to get this done with you so we can eat some, right? So I'm just going to swirl my way around the cake. And these crumbs are a little bit moist because I just ground them up. You can pop them into a warm oven to dry them out so that when you stick them to your cake, they're really crummy. And this is a really great thing to do. You can do this with chopped up nuts. You can do this, I've seen people do it with like cereal, you know, like all kinds of fun stuff, depending on the kind of cake that you're making. And you don't need a ton, but you need enough to make it look uniform. And then you can just give it a little tap here and there. But this is a nice way to go if you don't have time to like dress the cake. Okay. And then the other thing I want to do with this cake is if I ever serve somebody a cake with nuts in it, I like to let people know there's nuts in it. I don't want anyone to be surprised in a horrible way that, oh my gosh, I didn't know there were nuts in there. So I'm going to take some toasted, chopped up pistachios, and I'm just going to rim around the edge of the cake. So it's totally clear, and there's no surprises that there's pistachio in this cake. And in general, whenever you use nuts, it's a good idea to have some on the outside so people know what they're getting. And it's really pretty, too. But it's like a surprise. Like, they don't know they're getting like a whole crunchy Dubai chocolate cake filling, right? Okay? How's that look?
Beautiful.
Isn't that pretty?
I love the little kind of wreath of pistachios.
I do too. Especially this time of year. I love any wreath, anywhere, anytime. Okay, so cake the first. All right, now again, chill your cake. I'm not chilling this cake. I'm going to eat it right now. But when you do this at home, make sure that you chill it in between steps. Make sure your filling's ice cold, etc. But let's just take a look at what it's going to look like, kind of. Just a little sliver, or a big sliver. If you're like, I worked hard on this cake, I'm having a sliver. Dun, dun, dun. I know, it's so pretty. Can you see that?
It's still beautiful.
And I love the little topper. Isn't that pretty with the pistachios on it? And now I just have to make sure it's okay because that's my job.
Yeah, control, making sure.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I love everything about this whole thing. Can you see that with the green filling and then all this chocolate gorgeousness everywhere? Like, look at that. There we go. Ta-da! Oh, that's a good shot. How about that? Is that good? All right, here we go. Mmm. So this is in-your-face cocoa. It is deep, it's rich, it's lush, but then all of a sudden, there's this incredible like crunchiness from the kataifi and this nutty pistachio thing, and then the tahini just brings it home. There's like this earthy depth. It's just the right amount of salt. It's lush, it's layered. It's chocolate cake with a passport. You like that? Chocolate cake with a passport? I feel like I'm just heading out to Dubai. I'm going to have a little Dubai chocolate cake from Mighty Sesame because that's how we roll around here. I hope this is how you roll too. I want you to go forth and cook. Please make this for your nearest and dearest. This is such a great showstopper cake around the holidays too, because a lot of people aren't expecting like chocolate around the holidays for like a cake. They want like, there's a pie, there's an apple, there's cranberry, all of that, which is all so good. How about you be the one that brings the sunshine? You bring your tahini, you bring your pistachios, you bring your chocolate, and you bring your beautiful self, and like things are going to work out. Do we have any other questions before we head out?
Just if you could deliver the cake.
Oh my gosh. I wish I could. I don't think it's going to be here though. There won't be any cake left. It'll be sad. It's all going to go away. There's people like around right now who have eyeballs, like big eyeballs. But yeah, make it for yourself. Make it for the people in your life. Share it. Enjoy it. And thank you so much for being here today. I want you to go forth and cook. I want you to check out all the other recipes that we have for Mighty Sesame because there's some really, really beautiful stuff in there. And get yourself a couple bottles of this stuff. It's incredible. I love the little squeezy bottle and how I can add it into everything. So go forth and cook. Happy holidays, and thanks so much for being here. We love you. Happy, happy.